Good morning. Welcome. Boker Tov.
Morning.
And Erev Tov in some cases. So good day. Good day. Um, we'll start off with a bracha, and then I had a thought. So Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kitshanu B'mitzvotav V'tzivanu La'asok B'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Amen.
So I decided this morning, since I did not get up in the middle of the night, and so I did not say all the blessings for studying the Torah, and I haven't yet, that I would do the blessings over the Torah, the complete blessings that one generally says at the beginning of a day when you start to study Torah in English, and just to give you a sense of what's involved in this. And so I'm going to simply read the translation from this particular Siddur, the Siddur Sim Shalom, and this is how they've translated these blessings. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, who rules the universe, instilling in us the holiness of mitzvot by commanding us to study words of Torah.
May,
May the words of Torah, Adonai, our God, be sweet in our mouths and in the mouths of all your people, so that we, our children, and all the children of the house of Israel may come to love you and to study your Torah on its own merit. Praised are you, Adonai, who teaches Torah to his people Israel. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, who rules the universe, choosing us from among all peoples by giving us the Torah. Praised are you, Adonai, who gives the Torah. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, who rules the universe, fashioning the human body in wisdom, creating openings, arteries, glands, and organs, marvelous in structure, intricate in design. Should but one of them fail to function by being blocked or opened, it would be impossible to survive and to serve you. Praised are you, Adonai, healer of all flesh, sustaining our bodies in wondrous ways. Um, the soul that you, my God, have given me is pure. You created it, you formed it, you breathed it into me. You keep body and soul together. One day you will take my soul from me to restore it to me in life eternal. So long as this soul is within me, I acknowledge you, Adonai, my God, my ancestors' God, master of all creation, sovereign of all souls. Praised are you, Adonai, who restores the soul to the lifeless, exhausted body. There's also another piece, I believe, that is read traditionally. These are the deeds that yield immediate fruit. Yes. So generally, right after, since one may not actually have the opportunity of studying Torah during the day, just like we are, sometimes one cannot formally do it. Built into this prayer, and really before the very last prayer that I said about thanking God for the soul that God places in me, there are these particular passages. Um, One is the priestly benediction from the Torah, which is, May Adonai bless you and guard you. May Adonai show you favor and be gracious to you. May Adonai show you kindness and grant you peace. And then a passage from the Mishnah. These are the deeds for which there is no prescribed measure. Leaving crops at the corner of a field for the poor. Offering first fruits as a gift to the temple. Bringing special offerings to the temple on the three festivals. The three pilgrim festivals are Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, Passover, Pentecost, and Tabernacles, doing deeds of loving kindness and studying Torah. And this is from the Gemara. These are deeds that yield immediate fruit and continue to yield fruit in time to come. Honoring parents, doing deeds of loving kindness, attending the house of study punctually morning and evening, providing hospitality, visiting the sick, helping the needy bride, attending the dead, probing the meaning of prayer, making peace between one person and another and between husband and wife, and the study of Torah is the most basic of them all. There's one additional point I would make, and that is after many, many years, I've come to the conclusion that the best translation I could ever provide for who has sanctified us or has made us holy through his commandments is who has made us significant or who has granted us significance
Mm.
through the commandments. And that the best translation I have for kadosh or holiness would be to grant significance, because this is one reason why performing commandments, which I realize is something that so many people don't take very seriously, is actually fundamental to human um, self-worth, joy, satisfaction in living. It's the best. While I told you that I have the recipe for depression, which is unrealistic expectations, I realize now I have a recipe for anti-depression, which is understanding the commandments and attempting in our lives to find ways to put significance into everything we do. And you saw in the listing of things that was given uh, various ways in which you can never fulfill it 100%. It's going to be a lifelong, a lifetime and constant attempt, which of course is great because you don't want to be self-satisfied, because self-satisfaction can lead to arrogance. So I don't know if you have any comments, but I really thought it was worthwhile sharing with you a little bit beyond what we normally do in saying that bracha before we study. I'm going to open it up for a second. Any comments, any thoughts? And not hearing any, we'll go into our text. All right.
Oh,
Very good.
one comment is we do have a minion.
Yes, we do.
Me too.
So let's go ahead. And since we actually did do a little bit of study, uh, I am going to go ahead with a Kaddish de Rabbanan. Is there anyone, either special healing for anyone or special prayers for anyone that you would like to think of at this time?
My son. Yeah.
Do you want to mention his name, please?
His name is Matthew.
Okay. All right.
He is an alcoholic. Right now he's currently homeless.
Okay. May the merit of our study come before the divine throne, and may God have mercy on him
Thank you.
and bring him open, give him light and healing and wisdom. Somehow touch his heart and his
Thank
mind.
you. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to stand for this. You guys don't have to, but I will.
Right.
Let's see. All right. Let's see. Would one of you please, I don't want to pick anyone, but I'd need one of you to respond to my Kaddish, with Yehei Shmei and the Amens, etc.
I'll do that.
Thank you. Okay, Lisa. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shmei Rabbah
Amen.
be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala v'zman kariv v'yamru Amen.
Amen. Yeheshme Rabba Mevorach Leolam Ul Almei Almaya.
Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach lalam alalmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal shmei dekudsha brichu.
Riku.
Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'yimru Amen.
Amen.
Al Yisrael ve'al Rabbanan ve'al Talmidei Hon ve'al kol Talmidei Hon ve'al kol man de'oskin be'oraita diva atrahadain v'diba chol atar ve'atar yahei lahon u'lachon shlama rabba china v'chista v'rachamin v'chayin arichin umzona revicha ufurkana min kodam avuhon divishmaya v'yimru Amen.
Amen.
Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya v'chayim tovim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav u'berachamav yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now there are 11.
Yeah. And disappeared.
Can't hear you, Rabbi.
Yeah, your face isn't up.
There we go. Sorry. It could be
You are.
that there's another little button that can mute me, and it could have pushed against the table when I was sitting down. So I was thanking God for that. I want to take a moment to say that sometimes there are reasons that can go both ways, and they're both, so neither of them are compelling. They're just simply reasons. And so I want to explain why I don't say I'll call Yoshvei Tevel. And I'm saying this not to stop anyone or to try and dissuade those who would like to include Kol Yoshvei Tevel. And for those of you who don't speak Hebrew, it means there's a sense. This comes out of a sense of a feeling of discomfort over a particularistic attitude about the Jews being the chosen people, and that there's an implication about that somehow that puts down or decreases the value of other people. And so traditionally one would have said, over Israel, and more recently people have included over Israel and all those who inhabit the earth, added that little phrase into prayers that refer to Israel as the Jewish people, understanding that as the Jewish people, and being exclusive, etc. And there's that discomfort, and for that reason, the inclusion of all those who dwell on earth. And my own preference is not to say it, and I have two reasons. One is because I am a traditionalist, and I feel that there's something intrinsically valuable about holding on to things and formulas. And the second reason, which I think is actually a more important reason, is that I would rather reinterpret that and understand Israel as not to be simply meaning the Jewish people. That when I say Israel, what I associate that is all those people who have a sense of the divine and also who can be brought to it. So I realize it's complicated because primarily I therefore include, by the way, of course, people of any of the great faiths in when I say Israel. Even though from a legalistic point of view, I recognize I'm a rabbi for Jewish people if they want to accept me as their rabbi. I have no authority beyond that. But not to get too further into this whole conversation, that's how I try to understand when I use Israel. I want to be very, very conscious of not being exclusivistic or triumphalistic or particularistic or any of those ugly elements that tend to represent that particular point of view. So just sharing it with you to explain why I do what I do. So
I'd love to add one more thing, please.
yes,
Yeah.
sure, please, Lisa.
I do. I love the value of a formula, like you were saying, and Yisrael is. You've heard me do the teaching on the Shema, and
Right.
Yisro is to wrestle with or struggle with. El is the concept of God. So that includes everyone. I'm totally on the same page with you. And I have been requested by other synagogues that I serve and a couple of the congregants in this synagogue to add Yoshvei Tevel.
Right.
And I do it, and I get such joy from seeing Ahuva's face light up every time I put that in. It's worth it to me to do that, even though I have that understanding in my heart that I don't need to, because that is included. And there are people that don't discuss Yisrael, so they might not know.
Right. Absolutely. I like the fact that, I'm going to respect that totally. And that's what I feel people say when they say having a tent that covers these things. And I think having a congregation, having a community that is willing to respect more than one side of a position is important. So I love the fact that you do that, and even if I choose not to. And
And
I
I
think
love
it's so
I
important.
love that you choose not to. And as much as, you might, respect that I do what I do, I love what you do
Thank you.
because
Thank you.
because it's a tree of life for those that hold fast to it.
Right. No, thank you, Lisa. I think what you added was very important. Thank you.
I just want to say about traditional and formula. I mean, maybe it's better or maybe it's not as good. It just depends on, so I mean, in this case, probably is, certainly good. Whether better or not, that's, debatable. But for instance, the traditional Coke formula, it's a good thing they took out the cocaine, so sometimes it's an improvement on,
Yes.
when you learn something that you didn't realize before when the formula was developed. And in the case of the prayer, and I resisted, probably because of your influence, for a long time, imahot and doing the adding Yoshua Tevel. But one thing I realize is kind of a little bit related to what Lisa just said about Ahuva's smile. I mean, even if you teach people kind of where you're coming from, I think the truth is right now that the majority of people hear things a certain way, whether or not they've been taught or not. They still hear it a certain way. And if you don't include the imahot and people are saying, well, hearing it as, well, you're ignoring women, and you don't care about the role of women, which, of course isn't true with me, but that's the way people hear it. Or if you're leaving out the Yoshua Tevel and they don't see the word Israel in that particular sense, and they say, so why not be inclusive? Because you're still talking about Israel. And there are other reasons why you don't need to include Yoshua, because like once you have peace in Israel, you probably do have peace everywhere. But it's the audience, people are hearing it. You're saying this out loud. And I think that, I can't educate them all and make them all not upset. It couldn't hurt, in my opinion. It's not hurting for me to tweak the formula in these ways to please them, because it doesn't take away, in my opinion, from how I'm thinking about the original formula in my prayers.
Yes.
So,
Right. I'm really glad you brought that up, Lauren. So when I lead the congregation, for precisely the reasons that you are saying, I include the imahot. In my own personal prayers, I understand what I'm doing, but out of respect for the community, I will include the imahot, etc. I don't feel that the Al Kol Yoshvei Tevel formula has been accepted as, or is a cause of anger if it gets left out. But precisely for the reasons that you're mentioning, Lauren, I don't want to go into explanations, and above all, I want to be respectful of the community. So like I said, when I am at the Amud and I am leading the congregation in worship, I will include these in the formula. So yeah, learning how to be respectful of the community and putting the community first is, I think, a very important value, especially these days. Incidentally, if you'll allow me, so just this is a total editorializing on my part, right? And it's totally gratuitous on my part. Just a broad comment. So some of you who know me well at this point know that one of my favorite mantras is a critique, actually, of current Western modern society. And you know the formula, right? Ain't no one gonna tell me what to do. That is a sort of a mantra that so many people have. So I said that's something I came up with in St. Louis, right? That particular mantra. Although I think Lauren did some research and discovered others had said it long before I ever came up with it. It's the other one the other little bon mot, which is, nothing's impossible if you don't have to do it yourself. The other piece that I came to California and discovered in California that there was an additional mantra in California, and in California the mantra was, and thank God Californians have a sense of humor, goes something like this: well, just because I don't understand this particular topic thoroughly doesn't mean I can't be passionate about it. So anyway, maybe Californians can
That's not
understand
just
that.
California, believe me.
I hear you, but that's sort of something that I
Yes.
really found out in Northern California. It sort of really struck me when I came across the Rockies.
There seems to be a correlation in people's intense passion and their ignorance.
Yeah, you know something
Okay,
that's
okay,
even better. Let's keep
okay.
going.
Don't go too far.
Just kidding.
I'm not talking about a specific group of people, just people who are passionate about what they know nothing about.
Well, you happen to have mentioned Californians, okay?
No, I did not. I
I'm the
said
one.
I don't
I'm the.
think.
Maybe
did.
Lisa's talking to me.
Okay, I just want
Lisa.
to make sure you're clear that I did not. I said I don't think it's a Californian trait.
No,
Well,
but
I
I
got
want to say.
Lauren, I love you, and I
Okay,
totally get where you're coming from.
but I
Rabbi,
did not mention California. That was
no,
him.
I
you gotta laugh.
No, in all fairness, and we better bring this one to a conclusion. And I went out on a limb, and if I'm getting into trouble, I deserve it. At any rate,
I
but
just thought
my,
of Californians.
my feeling is that in some ways California represents the future of where United States is going culturally. That in many ways Californians and California, if you think about it, so many of California values eventually become adopted into, I'm not saying entirely around America, right, of the United States, but a great deal of the United States tends to follow. At least it's certainly true within Judaism, by the way, or liberal Judaism, that California is no doubt, a leader in terms of liberal thinking. So, okay, maybe I should say left-wing thinking. I don't know. I'll leave it at that. The left coast, that's what I've heard. I better get in the 6 minutes I have. We better look at a text. All right, let me see if I can find one quickly. Hold on 1 second, please. Okay, get my text open here and try sharing again. And here we are. So we will just at least take a look at this verse here. V'haita tza'aka. So just the context, Moses is speaking to Pharaoh about the final plague. And he's going into quite a bit of detail as to how painful this final plague is going to be. He's mentioned the death of the firstborn that is pretty much, other than the Israelites, is going to go across the board, regardless of status or position, or whether one is a native, quote unquote, Egyptian or anybody. But essentially, part of this is anyone who was happy to see the subjugation of the Israelites is going to have to endure this particular adversity. So, V'haita tza'aka gedolah, there shall be a great cry, b'chol eretz Mitzrayim, throughout the land of Egypt. Asher chamohu lo nihaita, like the likes of which there never was, the chamohu lo tosif, and like it never will be again. So this is clearly the language is that of exaggeration. It's not what it's simply saying is that this is like sui generis. The amount of hurt that people are going to endure as a result of this is going to be
Amazing.
extreme. Okay. We'll see if there's no, there is no Rashi on this particular passage that I can see. Going on, Ulachol v'nei Yisrael, but to the entire, literally it means sons of Israel, but we would translate it as the community of Israel, right? Or the children of Israel. Regarding the children of Israel, lo yecheratz kelev leshono, a dog will not literally sharpen its tongue, literally. Lemeish v'ad behema, from a person to cattle. Lema'an tedun, so that you understand. Asher yafle Hashem, that Hashem, that Adonai, right? That that the Lord distinguishes Bein Mitzrayim, between the Egyptians and between the Israelites. So again, on the surface, and since I think pretty much all of us, if not most of us, have a liberal um, position towards humanity and the world, and by liberal, I simply, to me, liberal means live and let live, and this understanding and acceptance of otherness as well, as opposed to, this is not a left-wing position. It's simply a way of, liberal to me means allowing people to express themselves freely. And this is obviously contrary to that kind of thinking, and this gets right into the heart of this particularistic or triumphalistic attitude that may be out there and that I'm trying to avoid. And the way I would need to understand this, of course, is that, first of all, this is a very specific context, and it has, and as I understand it, even though it doesn't say it explicitly, for those people who might not have been Egyptian, but who respected this idea of a divine authority and were willing to accept that idea, they would not have been affected by this. It's just that in the terms of a narrative, it's literature, and we want to be careful that this particular element of the Torah is coming across in a literary kind of way, and it's just trying to give us an understanding that regardless, this world is a binary world, and there is such a thing as evil in this world. And there has to be ways in which one can address that. Here, the divine is addressing it, and in that sense, it's not a human being that's has been given the authority to do this sort of stuff. It is straightforward, at least as I try to approach it and understand this in a sympathetic kind of way, to understand that in this particular context, people have been given 10 chances or 9 chances, and then beyond that, they've been enslaving. The Israelites were actually enslaved, I think, for about 200 years. That's a long, long time. And of course, there's some deep, deep messages, if we were to take this seriously, about enslavement and the whole notion of what gives a right of one person to own someone else, right? Not just to own their labor, but to own them. So, onwards into this passage. So this phrase, lo yecheratz kelev leshono, a dog will not wet its tongue, right? Won't sharpen its tongue. And Rashi, as he does very seldom, gives his own personal opinion. Normally, Rashi is citing opinions that come from his encyclopedic knowledge of Jewish tradition. But here he says, Omer ani, he says, I say, Shahu Lashon Shinun, that this word yecheratz has to do with sharpen, to wit. By the way, most of you are familiar with the Hebrew Veshinan Tam Levanecha, right? There's that word. So in other words, that you shall sharpen for your children, where it talks about teaching diligently. Very often it's translated that way. But it has to do with sharpening the mind, that a person's mind needs to be sharpened. Lo yeshenan, he shall not, he's quoting here. I'm trying to make sure I've got the where this is coming from. Lo yishanin, he shall not sharpen. V'chein, and he says, so in other words, he's saying this is referring to the dog, that the dog won't sharpen its teeth, meaning that there's not even going to. So translating it as snarl is, I think, an interesting and relatively accurate way to translate this. V'chein, and he says similarly in Joshua chapter 10, the book of Joshua chapter 10, Lo charatz livnei Yisrael leish et lishono. So in that particular context with Joshua, it's something about no one spoke evilly, right? No one sharpened their tongue, literally, amongst or to the children of Israel. Lo shinain they did not sharpen. He's explaining, unless that's part of the verse. Et lishono lo shinein. Shmuel bet, Samuel 2, chapter 5, as techaratz, and so then you shall tishtanen, right? So it says, then you will prepare for battle. In other words, sharpen your swords. Isaiah chapter 41, this happens to be a favorite metaphor that Isaiah uses, and we know that Isaiah is at least, I don't think I'm the only person who thinks of Isaiah as the Shakespeare of the Bible. At any rate, he talks about lemorag charutz. He's talking about a threshing sledge that is sharpened, okay, and shinun, it's sharpened. And so he says this word charutz means sharp or to sharpen. And in Proverbs 21, machshavot charutz adam charif, right? A the designs, machshavot, the thoughts of a charutz, of a sharp person. Adam charif veshanun. I'd have to translate. Lauren, you may have the pointing here. I don't. But something like someone who is charif really means, these days, if you want your food charif, it means you want it spicy, hot. But here they translate it, I think in Svaria, as acute. Shinun again, sharp, someone who's sharp. In English, we use the same. We use the same expression, a sharp person, somebody who has a really active mind, very somebody who thinks very carefully. This says Shmuel Aleph, but it actually is a misprint. It's also from Proverbs. The Yad Charutzim, so there's this word charutz, the hand of those who are sharp, intelligent, ta'ashir, okay? They will become wealthy. Charifim, socharim, shinunim. So in other words, I think it's the whole phrase is ta'ashir, again, without any punctuation, it's hard for me to remember exactly how this gets parsed out. So charif again, there's that word charif, quick thinking, socharim shinunim. So it's saying in this particular passage in Proverbs, it means it's talking about merchants, socharim shinunim, that are sharp, people that are on top of things, right? Asher Yafle. This is this is a strange word. This is not a common word. This Yafle word. So he says Yavdil, will distinguish. So Rashi is parsing out the sentence to help us understand some of the difficult Hebrew that's here. And with that, I'm going to stop here and put in a bookmark and stop the share and say farewell to those who are listening to the recording. Thank you.